Do you know how long I was unable to really, like, my smiles were fake. My smiles were my mask or facade, just, so everybody didn't know that I was living in turmoil. So the day that you can smile from the inside out and it's legit and it's real and you're happy and you have joy in your heart, it's worth coming out of it.
Today we have an exciting guest, Mosley. She's an educator, coach, speaker, and an author of the book Pretty Divorce. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I'm excited to talk about divorce. I'm not excited to talk about toxic relationships, but I'm excited to get the insight of how we can leave the toxic relationships, because it's never fun when we go through toxic relationships or people around us go toxic relationships, but it's always exciting to find your own way, to stand up for yourself and to leave those abusive relationships. Drugs, alcohol, infidelity, all this stuff people don't want to even imagine. You went through all of that for 25 years. And if people want to dive deep into your beautiful story, I highly encourage them to buy your book and read the whole story. But I recently got divorced, not officially, but I broke up with my husband. So I call it like I got divorced. And almost 2 years before, I knew I was going to get the divorce, but I was not ready. And I was meditating and I was like 2 years, I'm going to be ready. And maybe it was because I gave the time frame to myself, or in meditation, I got the real date. But after 2 years, I was so ready that it was the easiest thing that I could do. But those 2 years were the hardest things. And we all have different reasons why we stay in those relationships. And obviously, my relationship was not abusive, but it was toxic to some extent. It was not like fulfilling relationship, but it was not bad, obviously. But for you, what was your personal reasons for staying in a relationship way too long than you should have? Because there are women listening to us and they think it's only them, and it's not only them. So tell me about your own personal reasons for staying in an abusive relationship for so long.
Okay, first, I do want to address the fact that women feel like they're alone in this. There's a sisterhood of millions of women that go through this, and you're not alone. We're not alone, right? But for me, my father passed away when I was very young, and so I had a daughter, and I kept putting myself in her shoes and her in my shoes. Instead of looking at the relationship, I looked at the fact that my daughter would have to grow up without her dad. And I didn't want that for her. So I endured, I just endured through a lot of things and went through, just accepted a lot just to stay for the sake of my daughter. Because my daughter was, back then, my daughter was head over heels for her father, and back then he was a good father to her. So you do the pros and the cons, and you say, okay, you find ways to navigate through it, to try to endure it and live with it without, separating from the relationship, which was what would have been best for both me and my daughter. And that's what a lot of women don't understand when they're in the relationship, is that when you have your child submerged in a toxic environment, you're doing them more damage for their future. You're giving them a negative model on what type of, what a relationship looks like. And, when they grow up, a lot of times they end up being in the same type of relationships. So you've not only, damaged your time in your life, you've passed it on to your child and kept the cycle going. So, but mothers don't know that while they're in it. Mothers are doing what they think is best. I don't want to chop on anybody, because I did it. You're doing what you think is best, but really it's not. And you don't find out till years later that it wasn't the best thing to do.
So I was reading about you, and I was reading what you write, and you said something about women standing up for themselves. Define what does it mean for you to stand up for yourself? Because in today's world, people are saying all sorts of things like we don't need men, you know, like I'm not gonna go there. So when you
Mhm.
say like we women need to stand up for ourselves, what do you personally mean by that?
Yeah, we do live in a time where there's a lot of women saying we don't need men, and we could. I got it on my own. I don't agree with that. Like that, we could get into that conversation another time. I just don't agree with that. But I'm talking about not allowing someone to abuse you mentally, physically, emotionally, verbally. It's. I'm talking about standing up for what's best for you, to do what is best for you. And if you have children, to do what's best for you and your children. Because you're not just responsible for yourself after you have a child. Now you're responsible for a whole other person that's relying on you to help them through life. So when I say stand up for yourself, I'm talking about being courageous enough to know that this is not good for me. This doesn't serve me in any way. It's not building me up. It's not progressive. I don't involve myself anymore in relationships that are constantly withdrawing from me, putting me down, things of that. I don't, so that's what I mean, standing up for yourself, doing what's right for
Mm.
you and what makes you feel good. It doesn't, and at first it might not feel good to separate and be alone. For women, I think for the human species, period, we always want somebody. I think we weren't born to be alone, but sometimes it's good for us to be alone, to reflect, to make those changes, to develop ourselves so that we can get into the right relationships.
What are some, let's talk about two or three major things on how we can know that we are in a healthy relationship, because I don't think we all, but majority of the people feel in their gut when they are in abusive relationships because
Mm-hmm.
it does not feel good. What are
Mm-hmm.
some measurements, maybe 1, 2, 3, that we can say that this is a healthy relationship, obviously for you personally?
Well, first, your communication, right? Because communication for every relationship you're in, it matters how you communicate. Are you able to talk to this person and tell them really how you feel and they care? Or
Mm.
is their response always cutting you off where your feelings don't matter? In my relationships, my feelings have to matter, and I have to be able to communicate that with people because I allow people to communicate that with me, especially with my husband. We one thing that was really good about me and my husband before we got married in Florida. In order to get a Florida license, you have to go to counseling before you get married. So we were able to discuss all of these things: communication, trust, finances, all of these different things that come with when you're talking about being in a marriage or some type of serious relationship. You have to be able to communicate, and you have to be able to know that this person takes your feelings into consideration. Not that it just he's all that matters, you know. Also, being in a healthy relationship is not just communication, but how you communicate. When I speak to you, are you being disrespectful to me? Do you talk down to me? Are you saying things that hurt my feelings? If a person is consistently hurting your feelings, that's not healthy for you. If you're always in a state where you're crying or you're upset or you feel stressed out and these things. So if a person is bringing you a whole lot of stress, and relationships might have some stress. I don't want to say like a relationship is perfect, but there's certain things that when it's more stress than it is, like you said, you most of the time you feel amazing, you feel happy. You want to be with somebody that makes you feel amazing and makes you feel happy. That you're glad to see. You don't want to be you're at home, everything is wonderful, but when you hear the door, the keys in the door, you going like, damn, he's home. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's home, and now you want eggshells in your own home where you live. So it's a lot of telltale signs to tell you if you're in a healthy relationship. And like you said a few minutes ago, we all know if it's not healthy. But after a while, being in that, you normalize it and it becomes like this thing and you think that it's okay. You really don't see it until you come outside of it, because when you stay in any environment for a long period of time, it becomes your norm. Everybody outside could be saying, hey, are you all right? Is something wrong? It doesn't look well, and you'd make sense of it. You'd begin to make sense of it. Oh, that's just the way he is. He don't mean it. Like, No, none of that is okay. I don't think any woman deserves to be in a relationship like that.
Mm. There's a quote,
So,
I don't remember who said, but it says, "What you do not hate, you will eventually tolerate." And it's
mm-hmm.
so deeply connected with what you just said. And also, someone also said, like, if you sit in the shit for too long, it stops to smell. And
Yep,
those are just like, you
yep,
normalize stuff. We are
yep,
meaning making machines. We want the relationship to work. We almost create the different story of what it is rather than what it actually is. And we
yep.
believe those lies. How does a person leave a toxic relationship? If people are listening to us, and it's a big process. It took 2 years for me, as I said, to finally prepare myself to leave the relationship where we also have a son. That's why I prepared myself, because I have a 5-year-old son and I want his father and me to always be in the picture and to
Mm-hmm.
truly be friends and to have a good relationship where he sees that no matter if we live together or not, because I never had that. My parents got divorced. I
Mm-hmm.
almost didn't see my father as a child. So I always wanted to, if I couldn't create the marriage that I wanted, to almost like get divorced in a way that I wanted. But
Mm-hmm.
it took 2 years for me. How can we, what are some questions we can ask ourselves, or how can we give ourselves permission? The first thing, to give ourselves permission to prioritize ourselves and
Mm-hmm.
leave this abusive relationship.
So I'm not saying be a selfish person, but when it comes to these type of relationships or leaving a relationship, you have to be a little bit selfish. You have to think about yourself. You have to think about what this relationship is doing to you. And you have to think about the benefits of being out of the relationship. You know, a lot of times we get blinded and we can't see, and that's really what my book is about. For you to see the possibility of the other side. You know what I mean? To see yourself happy, to see yourself authentically being it. Do you know how long I was unable to really, like, my smiles were fake? My smiles were my mask or facade, just, so everybody didn't know that I was living in turmoil. So the day that you can smile from the inside out and it's legit and it's real and you happy and you have joy in your heart, it's worth coming out of it. But for women, they live in the moment. They see their situation right there. They can't see outside of it. And so, just to start thinking about what it would mean for you to be outside of this relationship.
Mm.
What does it mean for you to live the life of your dreams? The life you planned for yourself, or that you wanted to have when you was a little girl. What did you want to do? Every little girl, well, not now, but back in the days, every little girl, they like thought about growing up and maybe being married with somebody that really loves them and that does care about them and their feelings. And we lose all of that staying in those relationships. When you come to the other side of it, it's possible. It's possible. I'm in a healthy relationship. I'm in a relationship that makes me happy. I'm in a happy, like me and my husband, we connect. We vibe with each other. It's good. It's fun. We laugh. We have jokes that nobody else gets. You know, those relationships where you two laugh and stuff, and your kids are going, "Yeah, we don't get it.
Mm.
What's funny about it?" But it's fun for us. So it's those little nuances that matter. And being in a toxic, if it's toxic, some relationships are not so toxic. The chemistry's gone. We've grown apart. We don't connect anymore. So it's different variations to relationships, right? But in any relationship, if it's time for you to be, if it's not helping you to grow and you're just kind of stagnant, you're not really happy, you're just in it, just going through motions. No one wants to live like that. Like, that's not life. And I don't think that's the life we're supposed to be living. So women have to start really thinking about what it means for them to be outside of this relationship. What is it that they could create outside of this relationship? And a lot of people don't believe that there's life after whatever his name is, because there is. It's a whole big world out there, and it's a plethora of things that we can do. Create. Women have their own dreams. Sometimes we shelve our dreams just to help our husbands create theirs.
Mm.
Once he's gone, the world is your oyster. You can create what you want for yourself.
You said something so valuable. You said many things that were valuable, but two things that not every relationship is toxic. And we forget about that. We call every relationship like toxic relationship. And not every relationship is a toxic relationship. Like throughout this process, I met with few guys and I'm like, we just don't vibe. You're an amazing person. It's not a problem is in you or in me, but I have done some work, so I'm able to see that. And then girls go like, there are no good men left. And I also love how you did not just give up. You found your love. You didn't close off your heart. You still believed in love. And I'm sure it was a process and it took time. But so many women make this mistake of thinking that there are no good men left. And you are a living example that there are. You said something about divorce not being a failure, but it's repositioning, the word that you use. I love that. So many women feel like they are failure. And they are like, oh my God, I have to find someone else over again and spend all the time. They are almost lazy to do all of it. Talk to me about why it is not a failure, why so many women think it is, and what do you mean by just repositioning?
So a lot of women, because you know what, when you get into a marriage is supposed to be like this big moment in your life. You know, you've put your all into it, and when it doesn't work, you automatically feel like you failed. And I don't really look at it as a failure. I look at it as like I just learned a lot of different lessons. I learned a lot of stuff about myself. I learned what's good, what's not good, what to keep and what to get rid of, right? And when women go through it, they sit there and they go, who's going to, depending on your age, who's going to want me? If you have children, who's going to want me? All of these different things that women go through, they go through a million questions in their head. I'm sure you know, like, should I do this? Is this the right thing? Is anybody going to want me? And it's all of that stuff is an illusion. It's a distraction and it keeps you in your head. And you have to come outside of your head and live in the real world, because that's really not what it is. And all of this stuff about there's no good men, there are good men. There are good men. They're out there. But if you don't believe that they're out there, you won't, one, open yourself up for love again. You know, you won't open yourself for you, because you'll be skeptical of every guy. And you will chase off every guy because he's not good. He just, you know, you'll make all of these things up about what men are. You generalize it, and all men become what that one man did to you. And that's not fair. That's not fair. And that's how I was able to find love again, is because I want, and that's the thing we talked about earlier about women needing men. I don't use the word need, but I want a man. I'm a woman, and I'm not going to lie and sit here and be like, oh, I don't need no man. Men ain't no good. I might not need it, but I sure enough want a man. I'm not desperate for it. So whatever men will come in my way, if they weren't right, if they weren't for me, it was okay. People put so much pressure on it and they make it such a thing. Society always wants everything to be so ugly that if we break up, it has to be a bad breakup. It has to be an argument. It has to be toxic. No, it doesn't. We don't gel well together anymore. Our chemistry is not there. We're not vibing. It's okay. It's okay for you to go your way and I go my way. And that's the problem. People just don't see it as okay. A breakup has to have certain, like, these horrible connotations attached to it, where it has to be bad and dramatic and all theatrical. And no, it's okay. Okay, you're not feeling me anymore. I'm not feeling you. It's okay. Godspeed. I wish you all the best. And that's it. But it always has to be some. And like you said, every relationship isn't toxic. And you said something that was really a big key about doing some work. We women have to do some work. We have to mature. We have to be able to say this relationship is not good, and that's fine. You go your way. Just because a man doesn't want to be with you doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. It means maybe something ain't right with him, or he just, you maybe not type at the moment. Maybe timing isn't right. It's so many other factors, but we like to believe the worst. I failed, or he doesn't like me, or something's wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with women. We have to find the one that feels like we're meant to be theirs. or the one that wants to do whatever we need in a man. It's a bunch of men out there, and women can find a good man. They just have to not close themselves off from love. Be careful in the love you look. Be careful. I'm not saying not do your screening and filtering, but to cut yourself off from love is really to cut yourself off from one of the greatest parts of being a woman.
We have just scratched the surface here. If we have to talk about all the topics and your story, we have to be here all night for me, all day for you. If people want to dive deep into your story, because you became a mom when you were 14, you also got educated, and you also did so many things that we haven't even touched. As I mentioned, we just scratched the surface. Where can people find your book? And also tell me everything about you so people can find you.
Yeah, so my book, you can find it at theprettydivorce.com. And I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook as Marie Mosley. And I'm on Instagram as Marie.D.Mosley.
Mm-hmm.
So it
will be in the show notes. It will be in the description. Before I ask you to leave me with a message, which we'll get to, is there anything you really wanted to mention, or you just got an idea to talk about, but I just didn't get the chance to ask you the question? Just feel free to share whatever you want, as long as you want.
So you just mentioned something about time and things like that. I think that after relationships, women should take some time off, right? And they should do some self-development, self-reflection. They should, have an intimate relationship with themselves for a while, learn who they are, formulate whatever, what's your new identity? Are you reinventing yourself? Who are you outside of this relationship? Then you can go and, open yourself up for love. Because when we go from one relationship to the next relationship, we're bringing all of that toxicity with us. We're bringing, the next man pays for what the last man did. And it's just so many factors that make those relationships. And that might be why women have relationship issues, is because we haven't taken any time to really work on ourselves, develop ourselves, spend time alone. I spent 6 years celibate. So when women tell me, oh, no, I don't listen, because I did it. You could do it. You can shut yourself down for a little bit to really do, like you said, do some work within yourself. And it's only beneficial to me. I think it's only the best thing that we can do, instead of constantly, like you said, trying to find. We shouldn't be trying to find anything. Men should be trying to find us. I don't want to get biblical on you, but men should be trying to find us. We're the prize, we're the gem, and they should be trying to find us.
Okay, this is the last part. Leave me and the listeners with a message. It can be simply just one word or one or two sentences, but something that is in your soul and heart right now.
I'm gonna give you 3 things, right? 3 of my quotes. They're in my book.
I'm all ears.
What we go through are minor setbacks to do a major comeback, right? One monkey won't stop your show. I'm not calling men monkeys, but you understand what I'm saying. If he gotta go, he gotta go. And number 3 is decisions. I made one decision that changed my life for 25 years. So we really have to be careful about the decisions we're making, because it can definitely change the trajectory of your life. Don't rush into things. Take time before you make those decisions.
I love that. Marie, thank you so much for this beautiful insight. I highly encourage people to go and buy her book for your own benefit, because we have to learn from the examples of the real people. Not all of us have family members who went through divorce or want to talk about their experience who went through divorce, but there are people like you who are open to being vulnerable, to share their own stories, which is not easy. I don't want people to think that it's just like this, like people just write books and it's just so easy to share everything. It is not. It takes so much inner discipline, and it's such a lonely job, because I have done that. I have wrote a book, and you are just you and yourself. You are your own supervisor, and you do it because you want to bring value to people. So Her book will be down in the description box. Let's find her, pick her brain, but in a good way, not in a bad way. I don't want people to blame you. Then
Yes.
ask her
They could
questions and just
send
thank you.
me
Thank you for.
what do they call it, a DM? They could just DM me. They could
Just
they could
DM
even
her.
email me at theprettydivorce at gmail.com, and I'm here. I'm here. I want to help women. I do. I want
I
to
can
help
see
them.
that. No, that's not the right thing to say. I can feel that because
Oh,
I trust my feelings, gut feeling way more. Thank you so much for being part of this. Thank you so much for listeners for listening. Have a phenomenal rest of the day. If it's morning, like it's at Marie's place in New York, have a phenomenal rest of the night because it's night here. And until next time.
yes, my dear. Thank you.